Good afternoon, gardening friends. It's now Saturday at about 2:30, a little before 2:30, and it's my first update of the week. So once again, it's Saturday. I did get a few things done during the week, so let's see how much I can remember. Number one is that last week after I finished my update, I was looking at the plants and realized that the squash plant in the far side beyond these strawberry plants, it had pretty much died. It was gone. So I decided to head down to the local home center and see what I could find, and I actually managed to find an interesting tomato plant. This is a Somerset hybrid tomato, and supposedly it's heat tolerant. Considering its position in the garden with the air conditioner blasting the hot air out, that's probably one of the better plants to have in that position. So we'll see how it survives. So far it's doing quite well. I don't know how well you can see it with all the other green behind it, but I purchased it at the home center, so it's already kind of a medium-sized plant. It has survived very well during the week. In fact, I also bought some marigolds, another 6-pack of marigolds, because I had some ones along the outer ring that were dying, and I put a couple of the marigolds in that same planter. They're actually wilting a bit more than the tomato plant, so that's a good sign for the tomato, not such a great sign for the marigolds. We'll see what happens with that. Meanwhile, in the other far side of the planter, I've still got some squash plants. One of them looks pretty dead. Oh, there goes the air conditioner. One of them looks pretty dead, so I'm not sure how long that one's going to last. The other one is still alive. I keep pumping water into it, and we'll see if by any chance I can get any squash out of it. But that's what's going on with that one. Meanwhile, the strawberries themselves in both of the remaining sections of the big planter are doing very well. One of them, well, okay, the one on the far end looks like it's not doing as well, but maybe that's because I don't think, when I gave them a bunch of water yesterday, I don't think I actually got water to those. So I'll make sure they get some water today, and hopefully they'll bounce back. Meanwhile, the peppers seem to be doing pretty good. Still no flowers, and two of the plants are getting much taller than the other. And I have to see if that's just a characteristic of the two different pepper plants, because I think it's the two in the front are the same variety. The one behind them is a different variety. So I'm going to go look that up. I keep saying I'm going to look it up. I gotta go look it up and get some labels up here soon before I just completely forget what I've done. The lemon cucumber is suffering pretty badly. I stuck another marigold in there. You can see it just to the right. So I'm hoping that that will sort of help fend off any attacks by pests. But meanwhile, I think my garden is just not a great place. Just the climate and everything else around here just isn't very conducive to cucumbers. That brings us back to the remaining strawberries, and you can see I got one pretty well developed strawberry right there. They're smaller strawberries, but maybe as the plant gets bigger, the strawberries will get bigger. I got a number of strawberries growing on these two plants, whereas I only have the flowers for the strawberries in the big planter. So I've eaten one so far, and it was delicious. In the last episode, I thought that my Swiss chard was suffering from bugs, but I think what actually happened was I overwatered a bit one day, and they actually picked up dirt where they had wilted down to the dirt, and I watered, and they picked up some of the dirt, and when they finally perked back up, they just carried the dirt with them. That's all it was. I just wiped it off, and I haven't seen any sign of bugs. So the outer ring seems to be serving its purpose, although honestly, I have to keep replacing the marigolds. The petunias are not flowering anymore in this area. Well, one flower I can see. Other than that, petunias are not doing much. They're just green. And I think it's the flowers that actually create the scent that actually repels the bugs. So it looks like the outer ring is about to become mostly marigold. I have to be honest. I haven't been consuming the basil on this plant, so not picking the leaves is not encouraging growth. And if you look right up at the very top, which actually is out of frame, there, that should solve that. Right up at the very top there, I've got what looks like flowers are about to start. I pinched off flowers once before. All you really need to do is just kind of get your fingernail in there and cut it off, and that's the end of that. Unless that was actually flower or leaves that I just cut off, but when they're grouped together like that, it looks more like a flower. So that's been pinched, and I can actually smell the basil. I really should try and enjoy some of it since I went through so much effort. There is a lettuce plant behind it. It's got one, maybe two leaves on it, and it's really short. I may just abandon that. I've been meaning to actually plant more basil seeds in this planter and see what happens. I just haven't seen anything. That takes us to the second variety of tomato, which is the hard rock tomato, which has a couple of flowers on the top of it. And I've been spanking it and hoping, and we'll see what happens if I can actually get some hard rock tomatoes out of this. This is the only tomato plant in the patio garden that was grown from seed. So this one means that much more to me. You can't go down to the home center and pick up hard rock tomato, at least not at my home center. So I'm really looking forward to tomatoes, and I'm really going to baby this thing to make sure it survives. Third tomato is the patio tomato, and it's actually falling over under its own weight. The stem is pretty thick, but I think I'm actually going to have to stake this thing to try and keep it upright so it will reach for the sun a little bit more. The yellow pear tomato has been producing yellow pears quite consistently. I can see a bunch of green ones on there. They're really kind of hard to see because they're exactly the same shade as the leaves. There's one yellow one near the top there. It's almost fully ripened, so I'll enjoy that when it ripens. But these are basically like little cherry tomatoes, so they're great for, if you grow this, it's great for just that little snack. You're out in the garden, you're looking at things, and you go, I'm going to grab a tomato. So that's what that's good for. And so all of the tomato plants are healthy. Most of the plants and the veggies here on the patio garden are doing well. It's just the cucumber is really the one that's suffering. So that's the update for the patio. So things are mostly holding up in the south courtyard. I tried this week to do just 2 big waterings, but I can see where things are drying out and suffering a bit, so I've had to give them some support in between. I'll eventually figure this out. Maybe it's every other day, every third day, something like that, to get them enough water. And where was I? I try not to record any of the neighbors around here, so when I see them starting to walk up, I'll actually pause. Anyway, we're in the south courtyard, like I said, and we still got to figure out the water thing, but let's take a look around at the notable things around here. Number one, I've got this flowering bush that I've been trying to grow for the last few years, actually. And this year it looked like it was really bouncing back, and I had it in a great position, but if you look off to the left side, you can see where the leaves have been scaled off. I'm not sure what bugs are attacking them. If I did, it seems like it's the leafhoppers, the green leafhoppers that are getting in there. And if I catch it early enough, I can spray something on there and try and protect it. This is not a food plant, so I'm not as worried about pesticides or whatever, but all I really have is insecticidal soap. But it bounces back each year regardless, so I'm not going to worry as much about it. But I'll see if maybe I'm giving it too much water. I don't know. I've got to try and figure something out. The next significant change, and I'm not sure if I covered it last episode, is the bulbs that I planted. One of them is now finally producing a flower. So that has me happy on that. We'll see how well this flower develops. I've also got to check with my mom, because I gave her some of those bulbs and she planted them, and it came up just looking like grass at her place too. But now that I can see a flower, she may have something to look forward to. Here in the artichoke planter, I've got this one plant which I thought was the artichoke, and you can see the flower buds starting to develop that really doesn't look much like a baby artichoke. So I don't know what that all means, if that's a fungus that's growing because I had aphids on here or what. It might just be a weed that it got mixed in and I didn't recognize it. Actually, I see another of the same thing down below on another offshoot. So I'm going to have to figure out what kind of plant this is, if it's actually my artichoke or not. The other thing is this white fungus stuff that's growing on here. Now, I saw something recently about white fungus and cutting off the affected leaves so it doesn't spread. It's not spreading badly, but I'm debating whether to cut them off because I don't want to hurt the rest of the plant too much. So I'm going to have to figure that out and move forward with it. Moving back for a moment to what I suspect is a trumpet vine. Most of the flowers have gone away. You can see one sort of in the lower part of the picture there, which is developing, and I can see a few what looks like maybe buds a little bit above that on another branch. So we'll see what happens with this. I really keep meaning to put it in place and spread it out around the door. Certain things I just haven't been able to really put time into. This has not been the highest priority, and it's surviving quite well with the sun that it's getting. But I can't leave it here forever. I'm going to have to move it back into its original position. We'll see what happens. Beyond that, there's not much of significance happening around here. So we'll wrap it up here on the artichoke planter. And I'll say, this is the Budget Gardener signing off and hoping that you have a green thumb.